Here you go, honey.
How'd she eat the meat without the vegetables?
Well, the stomach wants what it wants.
A cartoon family has been living in the year 2025 since 1989. And in that time, they have been right about things they had no business being right about. Not vague things, not technology will advance, or politics will be chaotic. Specific things. Donald Trump running the country, Disney buying Fox, a mass flu outbreak causing panic and chaos in American cities, a Grammy category for ringtones, a horse meat scandal in the European food supply, autocorrect humiliating people on their phones, an Olympic curling upset, a Super Bowl result called days in advance, and then called again the following year correctly after they redubbed the episode. The Simpsons has been on the air for 36 seasons, over 800 episodes, more than 25 years of writing jokes about a world that kept turning around and becoming the joke. Today, 12 of the most verified, documented, genuinely astonishing predictions the show got right, along with, where the writers have spoken about it, the actual explanation for how they did it. Because the real story of how these predictions happened is more interesting than the popular mythology. It's not magic, it's something more specific than magic. And understanding it tells you something genuinely important about what The Simpsons actually was. Stay until number 1. That one is the prediction that carries the most weight. Not because it was the most specific, but because of what it reveals about the show's relationship with American culture. Let's count it down. 12. Lady Gaga's Super Bowl halftime show, predicted in 2012.
Well, hello. It's one of those music industry superstars who's turning our innocent.
In the 2012 episode Lisa Goes Gaga, the pop superstar Lady Gaga visits Springfield and delivers a halftime performance wearing a bluish-silver outfit as she flies over the crowd suspended on a harness, performing for an adoring audience from the air. In February 2017, Lady Gaga performed the Super Bowl halftime show. She descended from the roof of NRG Stadium in Houston, suspended on a wire. She wore an outfit that critics described as silvery and futuristic. She performed flying over the crowd at height before landing on the stage below. The specific elements that make this one of the more striking entries on the list, the flying harness, the silvery costume, the stadium performance, are genuine visual matches. The episode aired 5 years before the Super Bowl performance. Lady Gaga was a confirmed cultural phenomenon when the episode aired in 2012, so predicting she would perform a Super Bowl halftime show was not an enormous leap, but the visual specifics of how she performed it, the wire, the outfit, the arc over the crowd, were what made the comparison spread so quickly across the internet in February 2017. Screenshots circulated widely. The comparison was close enough that news outlets with fact-checking operations covered it as a genuine story rather than a social media rumor. Writer Al Jean, who wrote the episode, has noted that the writers simply envisioned the most spectacular possible performance for the character and gave it to her. What they imagined as maximum spectacle turned out to be exactly what Gaga chose as her Super Bowl statement. 2 separate creative teams, 5 years apart, arrived at the same image of what the biggest possible performance by that specific artist should look like. That convergence is not mysterious. It is, in its own way, more impressive than mystery would be. The writers and the performer were thinking about the same question. What does a Gaga performance at maximum scale look like? And they arrived at the same answer. Great minds, or at minimum, 2 very similar aesthetic sensibilities, reading the same performer's trajectory. 11. Autocorrect humiliation, predicted in 1994. In the 1994 episode Lisa on Ice, one of the bullies uses a device identified as an Apple Newton.
Hey, Dolph, take a memo on your Newton. Beat up Martin.
Apple's early personal digital assistant, to dictate a memo. He says, "Beat up Martin." The Newton translates this as "Eat up Martha." This is widely cited as a prediction of iPhone autocorrect. The comparison is real in the sense that both depict the same phenomenon, a device that is supposed to understand spoken or typed language and translate it correctly, instead produces something wildly different. The Simpsons writers were not predicting a specific Apple product. They were parodying the Newton, which was genuinely notorious at the time for its poor handwriting recognition. The joke was a current events joke about a real device's real failures. But here is what makes it more than a simple coincidence. What the Simpsons writers captured in 1994 was the fundamental experience of trusting a device to interpret human language and having that trust catastrophically misplaced. The Newton's failures were technologically primitive. The iPhone's autocorrect failures are technologically sophisticated. The experience, the horror of seeing what you meant transformed into something absurd, is identical. The show didn't predict autocorrect. It identified, in 1994, the comic potential of the specific gap between what humans intend and what machines interpret. That gap has been the central comedy of human-device interaction for 30 years, and The Simpsons got to it first with a stylus and a notepad. 10. The Higgs boson equation, predicted in 1998.
Because I kept tipping over when I was trying to invent stuff.
In the 1998 episode, The Wizard of Evergreen Terrace, Homer becomes obsessed with becoming an inventor and writes a series of equations on a blackboard. One of those equations, visible on screen during the episode, has attracted significant attention from the physics community. Dr. Simon Singh, a British physicist and science writer, examined the equation in depth in 2014 and concluded that it was a remarkably accurate depiction of an equation that, if worked out fully, predicts the mass of the Higgs boson particle. The Higgs boson was confirmed to exist by researchers at CERN in July 2012, 14 years after the episode aired. The confirmation was one of the most significant moments in physics in decades, completing the standard model of particle physics and validating theories that had been in development since the 1960s. The writer's room's explanation: David S. Cohen, who wrote the episode and holds advanced degrees in mathematics and physics, put real scientific work into the equations Homer writes. Cohen wanted Homer's blackboard to contain plausible-looking science rather than invented nonsense. The equation was not a random scrawl. It was based on real physics that Cohen had knowledge of from his academic background. This transforms the story completely. The Higgs boson prediction wasn't a lucky coincidence. It was an educated writer with a background in theoretical physics, sketching out what was, at the time, a speculative but scientifically grounded equation. It was homework, not prophecy. The show had a staff with enough scientific literacy to write equations that were genuinely doing physics over a decade before the experiment that confirmed them. This is the specific quality that made The Simpsons different. It was written by people who knew things, not just people who were funny. The Simpsons didn't predict the Higgs boson, but one of its writers, in 1998, was thinking accurately enough about particle physics to illustrate a blackboard with an equation that pointed toward it. That distinction matters. It tells you who was in the room. 9. The FIFA corruption scandal, predicted in 2014.
All right, just so there are no misunderstandings, you make sure Brazil wins.
In the 2014 episode, You Don't Have to Live Like a Referee, Homer is recruited by a FIFA-like organization, the World Football Federation, to serve as a referee at the World Cup in Brazil. During the episode, a representative of the organization is arrested on corruption charges. In May 2015, roughly a year after the episode aired, 14 officials of the actual FIFA were indicted by the U.S. Department of Justice on charges including racketeering, wire fraud, and money laundering. It was described as the largest corruption investigation in the history of international soccer. The same episode also correctly predicted the outcome of the 2014 World Cup, Germany defeating Brazil in the final. The real tournament ended with Germany beating Brazil 7-1 in the semifinal, one of the most shocking and lopsided results in World Cup history, before going on to claim the championship. The writers were working at a moment when FIFA's corruption was already an open secret in soccer journalism. Investigative reporters had been documenting the organization's specific vulnerabilities for years. The Swiss authorities had been building a case. American prosecutors had been gathering evidence. The specific charge made in the episode, that FIFA officials were taking money to manipulate international competition,
We knew you'd find out your daughter's original speech topic was Marie Curie.
was not an original creative insight. It was the thing that everyone who followed international soccer seriously already believed was happening. The Simpsons simply dramatized a suspicion that was, by 2014, widely held among journalists who covered the sport. The prediction came true because the prediction wasn't really a prediction. It was a description of something that was already happening, a gap between what the governing body was claiming and what investigative reporters were documenting. When the indictments finally came, It felt less like a revelation than a confirmation. If this kind of real analysis, what these predictions actually mean and how they actually happened, is what you've been looking for, subscribe. We do this every week. 8. Horse meat in the food supply. Predicted in 1994. In the 1994 episode Sweet Seymour Skinner's Badass song, Lunch Lady Doris serves the Springfield Elementary children food from a drum clearly labeled assorted horse parts. The joke was part of the episode's general satire of school cafeteria food quality, a recurring Simpsons target across multiple episodes. In January 2013, British newspapers broke the story that products advertised as beef across the United Kingdom and Ireland had tested positive for significant quantities of horse DNA. The horse meat scandal, as it became known, affected supermarket chains, fast food suppliers, and food manufacturers across Europe, and led to criminal investigations and significant regulatory reform. Supermarket giant Tesco removed hundreds of products from its shelves. IKEA temporarily pulled its famous meatballs from sale in multiple countries after tests returned positive results. The scale of the contamination, eventually traced through a complex chain of suppliers crossing several national borders, suggested that horse meat had been entering the European beef supply not as an isolated incident but as a systematic practice spanning years. It was not, in other words, an accident. It was infrastructure. The 19-year gap between the Simpsons joke and the real scandal is significant enough that calling it a prediction requires some generosity. What it more accurately represents is the show's sustained intuition about the gap between what food labels claim and what food actually contains, a gap that was a permanent feature of industrial food production that was being documented by food safety researchers throughout the intervening decades, and that the Simpsons writers were satirizing from a general awareness of industrial food production's particular tendencies. The joke was about what was always happening. The scandal was when it became publicly documented. The gap between those two moments, 19 years, is the gap between what cynics believed and what investigators confirmed. 7. Canada legalizing recreational marijuana, predicted in 2005.
Today, Mounties busted a major American drug smuggling ring.
In the 2005 episode Midnight RX, Homer, Ned Flanders, Mr. Burns, and Abe Simpson make an underground drug run to Canada to obtain affordable prescription medication that American insurance won't cover. During the episode, Ned encounters his Canadian counterpart, who offers him some referino, legal apparently north of the border. In October 2018, 13 years after the episode aired, Canada became the second country in the world to federally legalize recreational cannabis. The Cannabis Act came into force on October 17, 2018. This one is interesting because Canada legalizing marijuana in 2005 was not an obvious prediction. It was not being actively discussed as a legislative possibility in that form when the episode aired. The joke was simply that Canada was a more permissive society than America on various fronts, and cannabis was included as one of those fronts for comic effect. What the writers were capturing was a cultural gradient, the general sense that Canadian social policy was moving in a more permissive direction than American policy on several fronts. The specific policy outcome came 13 years later, via a trajectory that wasn't obviously predictable in 2005. The show stumbled into accuracy not through prescience, but through satirical generalization. 6. Disney buying Fox, predicted in 1998.
You only get one chance to make a first impression.
I don't want it.
In the 1998 episode, When You Dish Upon a Star, a brief establishing shot shows the 20th Century Fox logo, followed by a sign reading, "A division of Walt Disney Company." The episode's writer, Richard Appel, has said the joke was written out of a general sense that soon Disney would own us all.
The powerful television studios for Disney+. Allow me one personal note.
On December 14, 2017, Disney announced that it was acquiring 21st Century Fox in a deal valued at just over $52 billion. The acquisition closed in March 2019. The Simpsons, produced by Fox, officially became a Disney property. Homer Simpson, who had spent 3 decades as the face of a rival entertainment corporation, was now technically a Disney character. A 2021 short produced to celebrate the occasion showed Springfield residents interacting with Disney's roster in ways that were either delightful or disorienting depending on your relationship with corporate consolidation. The writers, in 1998, were making a joke about corporate consolidation, about the general tendency of large media companies to absorb other large media companies, with Disney as the most obvious and aggressive consolidator in the entertainment industry. It was a joke about an observed trend, not a specific business intelligence item. Disney had already demonstrated its acquisitive instincts by that point. The company had purchased ABC in 1996 for over $19 billion, one of the largest media deals in history at the time. The entertainment industry in the late 1990s was in the middle of a consolidation wave that anyone paying attention could see was accelerating rather than stabilizing. The specific question wasn't whether Disney would keep buying things. It was what they would buy next and how long it would take. The writers in 1998 were essentially asking that question out loud through the specific comedic frame of Fox being the logical next acquisition. And they were asking it 19 years before the answer arrived. But here is the specific detail that elevates this beyond simple satire. The joke was specifically about Fox being absorbed by Disney. Not Viacom, not Comcast, not Sony, Disney specifically. And that specificity, Wayne, that the writers chose the correct acquirer rather than any other consolidator, turned a general satire of corporate consolidation into something that looked 19 years later like a filed document. Appel knew something in 1998. He didn't know what he knew. 5. Smartwatches and video calls, predicted in 1995.
Hello! How are you doing in England?
The 1995 episode Lisa's Wedding is one of the show's most discussed entries in the predictions conversation because it contains an extended glimpse of a future America set in the year 2010, and several specific technologies depicted in that future arrived with remarkable precision. Lisa's fiancé uses a watch that functions as a phone and communication device, a wearable two-way communication tool. The episode also depicts a flat-screen television mounted on a wall, and it shows video phone communication, the ability to see the person you're speaking to in real time, on a screen, from home. The Apple Watch launched in April 2015. Flat-screen televisions became commercially mainstream in the early 2000s. Video calling through services like Skype and FaceTime became standard features of everyday communication through the 2010s. All three technologies appear in an episode that was written and produced in 1994 for its 1995 broadcast. The episode set its future 25 years ahead, a timeline that allowed the writers to imagine technology that was genuinely not yet available. They were working from the general trajectory of research and development that was visible in 1995 and extrapolating forward. The wearable communication device was science fiction in 1995. But it was the specific kind of science fiction that came from thinking about where existing technology was heading. Portable phones were already becoming smaller and more capable. Screens were already being researched in flat panel formats. Video telephony was already being prototyped by telecommunications companies. None of it was in consumer hands. All of it was in the pipeline. This is not prophecy. This is educated extrapolation. Writers who were reading about technology, thinking about where it was going, and writing it into a future set episode. The show was right because it was thinking carefully, not because it was lucky. The episode also contains a detail that didn't pan out: flying cars and elaborate pneumatic tube transportation systems for getting around cities. The writers were right about the flat screens and the smartwatch and the video calls. They were wrong about the personal aviation. What this selection tells you is that they were guessing about some things and extrapolating about others. And the extrapolations from real trajectories were the ones that came true. 4. The Siegfried and Roy Tiger attack, predicted in 1993.
A round of applause, please, for Anastasia. She loves...
In the 1993 episode Springfield, Mr. Burns opens a casino and hires two German magicians named Gunther and Ernst, an obvious parody of the real-life Las Vegas performers Siegfried and Roy, for an animal act. During their performance, they are attacked by their white tiger. On October 3, 2003, exactly 10 years after the episode aired, Roy Horn of the real Siegfried and Roy duo was attacked by a white Bengal tiger named Manticore during a live performance at the Mirage Resort and Casino in Las Vegas. The attack was severe, leaving Horn with serious injuries from which he eventually partially recovered, but the trauma ended their production permanently. The Mirage closed the show, and Siegfried and Roy never performed together again in that format. Roy Horn died in May 2020. This one is harder to explain through simple, educated guessing, because the parallel is so precise. White tiger, German magicians, live performance, attack. The episode wasn't satirizing a trend or extrapolating from observable data. It was making a specific joke about a specific act's most obvious source of danger. The honest explanation is the one that the show's writers themselves offer for the general predictions phenomenon. If you write enough jokes about enough things over enough years, some of them will land with uncomfortable precision. The Siegfried and Roy parody was a joke about the inherent absurdity of working with wild animals in a Las Vegas show. Wild animals in Las Vegas shows are dangerous. Eventually, that danger was realized. The joke was about inevitability. The real event confirmed it. And the 10-year gap between the episode and the real attack is the amount of time it takes for inevitability to arrive on a specific night in a specific theater. 3. The Super Bowl prediction. That worked twice.
It's a deal. Hey, Mo, you want to come with me and Wally to the Super Bowl?
This is the prediction that is the most technically verifiable. Not because it was the most spectacular, but because it happened twice. And the second time it happened, the writers had deliberately set it up to test whether they could do it again. In January 1992, the episode Lisa the Greek aired a few days before Super Bowl 26. In the episode, Lisa correctly predicts that the Washington Redskins will defeat the Buffalo Bills. The Washington Redskins won Super Bowl 26. The following year, before the rerun of the same episode, the writers made a specific creative decision. They redubbed the dialogue to predict the outcome of the upcoming Super Bowl. Lisa's prediction in the redubbed version picked the Dallas Cowboys over the Buffalo Bills. The Dallas Cowboys won Super Bowl 27. This is not a coincidence. This is the show's writing staff betting on a sporting event, in a piece of animation, using a 7-year-old character as their medium, and then doing it again. The second prediction, the deliberate, knowing repetition, transforms the first from lucky guess to something closer to informed analysis. The specifics of how the writers chose their picks have never been fully explained. The result is that a cartoon written days before 2 separate Super Bowls correctly identified both winners. And the second time they did it, everyone knew they were trying. 2. The Trump presidency, predicted in 2000. In March 2000, the episode Bart to the Future aired. In it, Bart is shown a vision of his possible future. In that future, Lisa Simpson has become President of the United States. In a cabinet meeting, she makes reference to having inherited quite a budget crunch from President Trump. Donald Trump was elected President of the United States in November 2016. The episode had aired 16 years earlier. Writer Dan Graney, who wrote the episode, has spoken about his intent publicly and clearly. He described it as a warning to America. The joke was about taking someone who was already a recognizable cultural symbol of a certain kind of American excess, wealth, vulgarity, name recognition disconnected from qualification, and placing them in the most powerful office in the world. It was meant as satire. It was meant to be absurd. The absurdity was the point. What the show captured in 2000 was something real about Donald Trump's position in American culture. He had already run for president as a Reform Party candidate in 2000, the year the episode aired. He was already a figure around whom the country's relationship with wealth, celebrity, and political legitimacy was being tested. The writers were not predicting a specific electoral outcome. They were satirizing a cultural tendency that was already visible. They were naming something the culture was already doing.
There are no tapes!
The absurdity of the prediction was the most political thing about it. And in 2016, the absurdity came true. After the election, the chalkboard gag in the episode Havana Wild Weekend read, "Being right sucks." There is one additional detail to this story that carries its own weight. Producer Al Jean noted on Twitter that the original 2000 episode had actually specified 2024 as the year of a Trump return, a detail that circulated widely when Trump announced his 2024 presidential campaign, and that Gene himself confirmed was accurate. Whether this represents a second prediction on top of the first, or simply a numerical coincidence, is a matter of interpretation. The writers were clearly thinking about the cyclical nature of American political celebrity, the way figures who seem to have passed their moment have a tendency in American life to return. The absurdity was the prediction. The prediction was the cultural diagnosis, and the diagnosis, 16 years later, was confirmed at the ballot box. 1. What the predictions actually tell you about the show.
To them, everyone has a weak spot. We will aggregate their emotional response.
And here is the thing that sits underneath 12 episodes, 16 years, 19 years, and 20 years of correct predictions about the future. The Simpsons didn't predict the future. It described the present so clearly, with such unsparing accuracy, that the future it was implying was already visible to anyone reading the description correctly. Al Jean, the show's producer, who has been with it since its earliest days, gave the most accurate explanation of the predictions phenomenon in a single sentence. We're really just doing educated guesses. If you throw enough darts, you're going to get some bullseyes. Writer Bill Oakley was equally direct. There are very few cases where The Simpsons predicted something. It's mainly just coincidence because the episodes are so old that history repeats itself. These are honest explanations from people who were actually in the room. They do not diminish the achievement, they clarify it. The Simpsons was, at its best, one of the most rigorously observed satirical portraits of American life ever produced. Its writers spent their careers looking at what American culture actually was, what it was doing, what it was becoming, what it was pretending not to be doing, and rendering it in animated form with the specific precision of people who were paying very close attention. The show's predictions weren't mystical. They were the natural output of extremely intelligent, extremely observant people writing about a society whose tendencies were already visible if you knew how to look at them. The Trump prediction was a cultural reading, not a political forecast.
It's a two-party system. You have to vote for one of...
The Disney acquisition was a trend extrapolation, not an intelligence report. The autocorrect prediction was a technological observation, not a vision. The Higgs-boson equation was a physicist's homework, not a prophecy. What made The Simpsons able to predict the future was that it was doing something that almost no other television show has ever sustained for more than a few seasons. It was paying attention, week after week, season after season. It was looking at America and writing down what it saw, in the most honest form that comedy allows. And sometimes, when you look honestly enough at what is actually happening, you can see where it's going. That is not a supernatural ability. It is the most ordinary and most rare thing in the world. Genuine, sustained, unblinking attention. The Simpsons had it for at least a decade, and the predictions are the record of what they saw. 12 predictions. One question that I want to put directly to you. Which of these do you think is genuinely the most impressive, the most specific, the least likely to be coincidence? Drop your answer in the comments. I'm genuinely curious. Subscribe for more of this. We'll be back next week.